Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Dateline Downtown Podcast. This is your host Ted Shull, Editor-in-Chief. I'm here with Juan Hernandez, Assistant Editor.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And we have a special guest today, Robert Ezzell. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm a Jiu-Jitsu instructor. I train mostly Jiu-Jitsu. I teach some Muay Thai. I also teach a little bit of wrestling. So basically, that's what I do for the most part of my time, along with the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. That's another part of area I work on is doing the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, talking to a lot of good Jiu-Jitsu guys from around the Houston area. Also trying to get people throughout the United States, also other martial artists. So I spend most of my time on the mat. Like I tell people all the time, it's like they're like, "What do you do with your time?" I'm like, I roll around with sweaty guys all the time. I was like, that's what I do. It's like I'd rather be on the mat, training, or in the gym, doing my conditioning or just whatever, anything active. I love being active. But recently we started the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast a few months back, and that's been real fun too. Because I've always been interested in podcasts for like the past 3 years or so through Robert Garza introduced me to the Joe Rogan experience. It got started with that, and then trickled down to other podcasts. And Garza started his podcast, the Pursuit Podcast. So once he started that, I was like a guest on that a lot. Like probably every week or every other week, because he just didn't he just didn't have a lot of guests at first. Then he started building traction, getting to know people, and had more people on. But I've always enjoyed doing it. It's just fun, like talking, and especially like if you talk about something you're passionate about. Like I listened to some of y'all's episodes, and when y'all talked about politics, I could to tell you kind of knew what you were talking about, and you were passionate about it. I'm the same way about jiu-jitsu, and I can talk about jiu-jitsu all day.
Right, and it's real too. You can tell right away when you listen to a podcast like the Joe Rogan Experience or Joey Diaz. I love Joey Diaz.
Oh yeah, the Church What's Happening Now. I have to listen to that every week, especially if I'm like, I just feel like sometimes you feel like listening to those podcasts are more intellectual and like have more content to them. And then sometimes you're like, man, I just want to laugh. I just want to drive home and listen to something like I don't have to really think about. I just want to laugh and be entertained, And podcasts, I think, should, at the same time, they should be entertaining. It's like if it's just all informative or just too cut and dry, people don't want to like gravitate towards it. If it's entertaining, people are still going to want to listen to it.
Right. And with the growth of podcasting, radio is pretty much a dying breed nowadays.
Yeah, I agree.
I hardly listen to the radio now.
I can't stand the radio. When I get into people's car and they turn on the radio, I'm like, man, it's 2014. What are you doing? Like, there's a cord you can, if you don't have a hookup in your car, there's a cord you can buy. There's something you can do to like not have listened to commercials. It's like, I got told a long time ago, like taking a basic music class when I remember like in 6th grade, and our music teacher told us, she's like, radio is about advertisement. That's what it's there for. It's not about the music. It's about advertisement. It's like, right. So why would you choose to listen to advertisements? So like, I don't enjoy listening to them. So it's like, I listen to Spotify, via the internet, or podcasts, through the internet. I don't want to listen to any, commercials. Like, what's the point?
And to me, it sounds, the programming is very hacky too. It's very overproduced and.
Yeah, you're right. And it's also censored. That's the thing I don't like. Is like, there on podcasts, you're free to say as you please. Depending if people have like big corporate sponsorships, but a lot of them don't. But you're free to express your ideas and what you believe in, and like you were saying, it's real. It's like a lot of those podcasts that don't have the corporate sponsorships or don't have censoring, you can be as real as you want, which is I think important. It's like you have enough TV and radio that's constricted and that's told like, you're saying this and you're going to talk about this. And so I think podcasts give you that outlet to be free with your speech.
And you're not listening to the same song over and over again.
That's true too. Yeah,
I remember when we were first getting ready to start our podcast, we were debating whether we were going to be an R-rated podcast or PG-13, because we are affiliated with a school, sort of, but we don't have any restrictions. So it's really cool to be able to decide for yourself what kind of audience you want to reach.
Yeah, that's true too. You definitely decide on that. But I think if you can't take a little slip of a cuss word here and there, it's like, come on, we're adults. I don't think. I mean, there are probably some 13-year-olds out there listening to some podcasts, but even the 13-year-olds, they hear cuss words. They go to school, they have movies, they have video games that have worse, words they're going to say on a podcast, worse things than on a podcast. So it's like, yeah, I think it kind of depends. I think what genre you're into. It's kind of obviously that pertains to who your audience is going to be, what genre you put yourself in. Like for example, the Pursuit Podcast, the Garza, he's in the comedy genre, right. But there's a lot of different content on this podcast. It doesn't all stem from comedy. Mm-hmm. For ours is the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast is more in like the sports and martial arts. So most people listen to it pertain to martial arts or jiu-jitsu or something like that. But I had a guest on a few weeks ago. Her name's Amy Gonzalez. She's doing the grappling games on December 13th here in Houston. It's a competition, and I had her on to kind of talk about the competition. Mm-hmm. And she messaged me the other day and told me a lady all the way in California listened to it twice, and she started jiu-jitsu. And I was like, that's amazing. Someone that never trained jiu-jitsu, mm-hmm. listened to a whole hour and a half worth of content, mostly about jiu-jitsu, right? And then started it. I was really taken back by that. I think that's really neat to see, and that's kind of why I started, just to spread the word of jiu-jitsu and what I love, and kind of tell people my views on it, and then have other people bring them in and kind of share their stories, and just spreading that whole idea, and my passion behind it is kind of why the reason I started the podcast.
Mm-hmm. One of our podcasts, we got favorited by somebody in New York and San Francisco, and it's wow, we started out just catering to students, but we were just having a conversation, and it's amazing that people pick that up,
Yeah, it's neat. I mean, to see people from different states, different countries that are listening to your podcast. And for me, I try to stay pretty humble, especially with jiu-jitsu. That makes me humble, but I'm just like, when I still am taken back when people tell me like, I'm a fan of the podcast. I'm like, what? You like listening to me? Like, come on. I don't know. I'm still taken back by that. Like, I have students. I teach at two different schools. I teach at UFC Gym in Missouri City, and then I teach at Bam Bam Martial Arts. It's Bel Air area. And I have students come up to me and be like, hey, man, really enjoyed this episode. It was funny, or it was really informative, it was really motivational, whatever it may be. And I'm just like, wow, man, I'm really like humbled by that. And it's neat to see, like, it's kind of paying off, It's like, mm-hmm. it doesn't have to necessarily pay off in like a monetary sense. It can pay off in the sense that, like I said, someone started jiu-jitsu or someone enjoyed it. Like I said, the entertaining aspect of it. I had a student call me the other day and be like, hey, man, this, I think it was episode number 10 or 11 with Hanato Laranja and Jeff Glover. He said, man, I love that episode. It was so funny. I just want to call you and tell you that. I'm like, wow, for someone to take time out of their day to call me and tell me like how funny the episode was, like that, I enjoyed that too. It just, if you get some entertainment out of it, this is great as well.
Mm-hmm. And it makes you work harder too towards
more
episodes.
Definitely.
That's the way I felt when we got like 7,000 hits on our episode with Christopher Sharp. And I'm just looking at it like, wow, that's pretty amazing, but what am I gonna do next? Yeah,
it kind of puts that pressure on you. It's like once you've had that outreach, it's like, okay, people are listening. I really got to watch what I'm saying, really. And I did that a lot. I do it somewhat now with the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, but definitely when I did the Pursuit podcast, I would go back and listen to them. And if you listen to your podcast, it's so weird listening to yourself. It's like nails on a chalkboard. It's tough. But I think you got to do it, especially at first, to kind of like see where you're like kind of can improve, or saying things you're saying that you could cut out. It's just, for me, it kind of helped me to like go back and listen to those and be like, okay, man, you can really improve in this area. You could do different things better. So yeah, I know if it's a lot of people listening, it's like you want to do well, and when people like it, you want to continue to do better and get a good guest, and that's what I've done. I've kind of just took the I guess the bull by the horns, I guess you could say. Once I started it really started. We were on the Pursuit podcast one day, and we had went to a big competition called Metamoris in California.
I heard about that.
Yeah, so we did the Metamoris podcast. It was basically all the hosts as myself, Joey Martinez, Joey Fody, and then Scott Davis. And we kind of geeked out. I say, like, we geek out on jiu-jitsu. It's like some guys get like comic books. Some people are like into technology. It's like I geek out on jiu-jitsu. That's what I nerd out on. And so we nerd out for like an hour, just all about, and you know, different intricacies of moves and rules of competitions, different things like that for like an hour. And Garza was like, dude, y'all have to start a podcast. It's like, y'all just talked an hour, you know, just about certain little things. He's like, y'all could do a podcast of this. I'm like, man, you're right. Like if I could do anything and do a podcast, because I had thought about it before and just really didn't have any direction or any idea. I remember trying to like think of a name for like 2 days. I'm like, I want to do a podcast. I couldn't even think of a name, you know? But when he told me that, I was like, man, that's something I can actually do. Like, I feel comfortable being on the mic talking about jiu-jitsu and martial arts in general. You know, I was like, you know what? I really want to take that and run with it. But I didn't want to do it by myself because it's tough to run a podcast by yourself. I didn't know all the technical things behind it. And when Garza told me, he's like, hey man, I'll produce it. I'm like, cool. You're going to do the legwork kind of behind it. And I was like, I get to do the fun part. I mean, there's legwork behind it too, you know, keeping up with the social media, getting guests and all that stuff. But to me, that's fun. Like I like going out there and approaching people and talking to people about the podcast and asking them to come on, and then you kind of build a rapport with them, and then you get to know them better too. It's a blast. Just doing the podcast, you know, like I've had people on that I know, and I get to know them better on a personal level. And then I have people on that I don't know, and then I get to know them as a person. So that you know, it's just a cool experience. I can't really explain it unless you've done a podcast, you know.
Right, and that's how this podcast actually got started. I actually started thinking about it last semester, and I started talking to Robert more and more, and I went on his podcast and we talked about it. And he's like, well, give me like a specific date. I'm like, well, I'm not sure. But, and he was like, no, give me like, if you had a set date, give me a set date. I'm like, okay, we're going to do it fall 2014. And I came through fall 2014. Ted and I started the podcast, and we've been running strong ever since. And
that's awesome.
Planning to continue until the end of the year, until we graduate. So
possibly even beyond that.
Even beyond, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think you should. I mean, if you start something like this, and it's like, it sounds like you've already had pretty good success already. It's you know, you said you're kind of loosely affiliated with the school. You can just you can take your audience space to wherever you go further from there. I mean, I definitely think you should. But yeah, if you, I was gonna say, if you go on the Pursuit podcast, he's gonna get you to try to start a podcast. Right. He does it. He's like, I hate to sound cliche, but he's like, you should start a podcast. He does that to everybody. But no, he'll always tell you, like, that's why he probably made you set a date, because he tells everybody that, and they're like, oh, I want to do it, and you're like, no, set a date. Because it's funny, we were talking about that on the Saturday podcast. It's like a lot of people talk about how they want to do things, how they want to get started with something, or whatever it may be. It's like, don't talk about it, be about it. You know, like that's something I'm big on. It's like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I'm not going to do it, I'll just tell you I don't want to do that, or I don't plan on doing that. But if you set your mind to something, or if you say something to people, and you want to do it, go out and do it. You know, like that. It's fulfilling to you know, do what you say.
Right. And how was the trip to? Was it in California?
Yeah, that was one trip. It was great. I've taken 3 trips to California, all around the LA area, and man, I really enjoyed it. It's the last trip we took. Was for Metamoris. So Metamoris is basically a competition put on by the Gracies, which most people are familiar with, the Gracie family. And it's basically, they bring in the best of the best all around the world. It's a really really nice venue. They put it on like it's basically a big mat, but it's elevated, and you're seated all around it. And it's a cool format, because most jiu-jitsu tournaments are points based, and sometimes cannot be as exciting because they're people win by points. They can stall and win through points. Well, this is a 20-minute submission only match, so it presses the action for submission, you know, and so it's more exciting. And like I said, it's the best guys in the world, and just being there, like, yeah, it's funny. I remember Joey Martinez said something. He's like, I feel like a little boy in here. He's like, with all those men, like, cause it was just the best of the best walking around. And in California, there's a lot of jiu-jitsu schools, and a lot of the top guys in the world live in California. It's a big scene as far as the competitions there, and then a lot of guys that move from Brazil. You know, you live in Brazil, you have beautiful weather, beaches, and everything. Where are you gonna go? California. California's
Exactly.
got 75 degrees all day, every day, not a lot of rain and beautiful beaches. So yeah, and California, it's just it's a great atmosphere as well. I mean, but like I said, I really wanted to go for the jiu-jitsu, and I got to train out there for a week. We went to different schools. I got to train with Eddie Bravo.
Wow.
Yeah, 10th Planet headquarters. That was surreal. I remember like standing there, we're sitting there on the mat, and Eddie was talking, and Eddie was in front of me. I was looking kind of behind him, and there was a big 10th Planet sign, and I remember looking at like, wow, man, this guy built all this from jiu-jitsu. Like he has, I don't know how many schools, but they're all around the world,
Right.
like, and it's amazing how like someone built that from jiu-jitsu. He's built. He has a podcast, Eddie Bravo Radio. He has DVD series. He has books. He has many students all around the world. He has a location here in Houston, the 10th Planet Beaumont with Brian Deebs. It's just it's really surreal to see someone that accomplished in jiu-jitsu and where you can take it. So yeah, the California trip was great. Just seeing another level of jiu-jitsu. In Texas, it's kind of right behind. We're not too far, but California, like I said, has a different level, and like I said, it was great to experience it.
I love Eddie Bravo. Sorry, but I love Eddie Bravo. I mean, I first came across him on Joe Rogan's podcast, and once I learned that he was a huge Kiss fan, I'm like, man, that's my guy. That's my guy right there.
What's the age range you train?
It really starts pretty young, like.
Yeah.
Depending on the size of kids, because all kids are different, but most kids start around 4 or 5 years old, and yeah, a lot of people say that's pretty young, but you'd be surprised, man. These kids, they can soak things up like so fast. I mean, whether it be a martial art or a language. I teach at Bel Air at a Bam Bam Martial Arts, and it's a nice area, and some kids come in there, and I came in one day, and there's a couple of Hispanic kids speaking like English and Spanish, and then there's this other girl, she's half Chinese, half I guess Caucasian, you could say, and she's speaking English and some Mandarin, and I'm like, wow, like I feel like an idiot. Like I just don't feel that smart. Like these kids can soak up, like I said, whether it be a language, a martial art, anything. These kids can just really learn a lot, and it's fun to see them pick up things, and of course, like yes. There's a tough part of keeping them disciplined, keeping them aligned, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that can be tough some days. Some days are tougher than others because you get, four little. I mean, the only way to call them is four little badasses. Like the kids, you've seen them in the grocery store, you've seen them out in public. You get like 3 or 4 of them together, it can be a tough day. You really have to. But the cool thing is you can instill discipline, and we do it through physical activity. As well as a teacher can't be like, get down and give me 10 push-ups, 20 squats. We do that. It's like you're gonna run up and down, or you're gonna do push-ups, do squats. So it's cool to give those kids discipline and to teach them what we know. And there's nothing more satisfying when a kid pulls off a move, or an adult. Kids get more excited because kids just kind of portray that emotion a little better, but it's fun when you teach adults too, but kids get so excited, and it's cute. Like kids will come up and give you a hug for no reason after class and just thank you, and they're just sometimes they can be even nicer than adults to be. But it's fun teaching adults too. I get to teach all the way up to some people in their 30s, 40s, some people in the 50s. I always say it's never too late to start anything, but I say jiu-jitsu because that's what I do, but whatever you want to do, if you want to start a podcast, if you want to start jiu-jitsu, if you want to go to college, if you want to learn something, it's never too late. Like as long as there's air in your lungs, like you can do it. You can do whatever you set your mind to. So yeah, I pretty much from like the adults go from 18 and mid-20s. You have some people in the 30s, and then like I said, some people in the 40s and 50s. You don't have as many people obviously starting it later in life, like 40s and 50s, but the people that have started it younger definitely stick to it. I have several friends and training partners that are in their 40s. I have a buddy who he's in his mid 40s and has a full-time job, and he's able to travel, and he'll go to California. He competed once or twice this year, and competes all over in Houston. So it's not just, a lot of people think it's just, oh, these are just 20-year-olds that are just in the prime of their life and out there training. It's like, no, you got guys that are 40, 50, 60s. There's pictures online you see all the time. It's just guys that are like 96 years old. I posted this thing this morning. It was funny. So in jiu-jitsu, the belts, they go from from white, blue, purple, brown, black. They have a coral belt, which is like a half black, half red belt, and then a full red is like a grandmaster, you know. And they had this coral belt. This guy was 72 years old. I think it might have been Brazil because he was speaking Portuguese, and it was a video of him holding this guy down in mounted position all the way on top of him with both of his knees on the kind of the side of his chest, and just slapping this guy because he tried to rob him. And I'm like, guy's 72 years old. You know, obviously he's been doing jiu-jitsu for a very long time to become a coral belt. I mean, I would imagine 20, 30, 40 years, who knows. But it just shows you, like, it's, you know, no matter what age you are, it can be effective. You know, obviously his technique is mastered. Like, his technique is really good to get to that level. But no matter, you know, if you're 4 years old or 7 years old, the techniques work, you know. So it's cool to see that, and it's fun to teach at different ages. You know, I enjoy teaching the kids class, you know, but sometimes after it's over at 45 minutes, I kind of, you know, take a big deep breath and I'm like, okay, adults it's easy. I don't have to babysit. So yeah, I enjoy teaching them all. It's a blast.
I think that discipline is very important, especially in this day and age where, I mean, I see a big lack of discipline in kids nowadays. And, you know, like myself and yourself and Ted and my brother and Randy Canales, we all have hard work ethics. And, you know, I don't see it that much anymore in these young kids.
No,
this generation.
I agree. You don't see it as much. I think, and it's kind of, you know, where it came from a different generation for those kids, and now the generation they're coming up, it's like some things you don't have to work that hard for. You know, it's like it's all like per se like the instant gratification. You know, we have that in everything nowadays, whether it be food, internet, you know. Whatever you want, you can get it in you know, the click of a switch.
Trophies for everybody.
Trophies for everybody. Yeah, there you go.
That's not how it works. That's not how life works.
Yeah, that's the funny thing too, is like they want to take out the losing aspect. It's like I can tell you from losing many matches, like I learned way more from my losses, not only about my technique and my jiu-jitsu game, but as a person, I learned a lot. You know, like, you got to lose, you know, whether it be or fail. You got to, you know, you have to learn to do that. You got to fail a paper or a test, you know. You got to lose a jiu-jitsu match. You know, you have to go through breakups, you know, just like all that stuff, you know, build you as a person. And it's like, if you want to take this kid, you know, starting from the young, and it's just, you know, sugar and spice the whole time, and they never get told no, they never, you know, make a mistake, then how do you expect that person to grow, you know? It's character. Like, yeah, character, that's a great word. Yeah, they're not going to have character. It's just like, to me, it kind of reminds me like of a trust fund baby, you know? It's like, if they never had to work or never had to, you know, do something difficult, it's just like, how do you hands dirty. Exactly, there you go, get their hands dirty. It's just like, I don't understand how you expect these kids to grow as people. So yeah, I definitely agree. And we can only do so much. Like, I mean, the kids classes are an hour a day, you know, and if they come every day, you're talking about 5 hours, 6 hours a week, you know. But we try to instill as much, you know, discipline and respect too. Respect is huge, you know. It's like, not only respect of like the elders and the adults, but you're respecting your training partners, you know. It's like taking care of your training partners, treating them right, you know, speaking to them right. We you know, it's important for those kids to learn, like, you can't just do what you want, you know. It's like, especially some of these kids that I teach that they have well-off parents, I'll put it like that, you know, and they have nannies. Sometimes they're not even with their parents all the time. They're just with nannies, and then they do what they want with the nanny. Then the parents come, and they're only with the parents a few hours a day, and they do what they want with their parents, you know. So it's like they never get told no, or they never get taught that discipline and respect. So yeah, I think the martial arts, and it doesn't matter if it's jiu-jitsu or karate or Muay Thai or whatever you want to do, like, if you think of when I think of martial arts, I think what most people think of it, it's discipline is definitely one of those key words that comes up. You know, it's like, you can't do martial arts and not be disciplined. And if you want to be good at it, especially jiu-jitsu, you have to be very disciplined in every aspect. You know, your training regimen, your diet, your just everyday life. So I think especially with this, we have kids that compete, and those kids that compete, like, you can tell they're at a different level mentally, and they push themselves harder. So it's good to see that those kids that take it on.
Right. And to avoid becoming victims and, later on saying, well, I can't do this because of this, or, this happened to me. Well, you got to pull yourself through.
Yeah, pull yourself through. You pull yourself by the bootstraps. Yeah, it's and that's another thing. Another word too. I was thinking of is confidence. It gives you confidence. It's like, it's something I can't explain. Like, it's, people may worry, but especially females may worry, like, in a day-to-day basis, like, am I going to get attacked? Can I defend myself? It's like, you never know what's going to happen in, like, today's age. Y'all were talking before the podcast, talking about Ferguson protesters, and just anything may happen. Maybe a riot, there may be just a bum that attacks somebody. You were talking about the podcast about the homeless person that killed the police officer that was dressed up like Santa. And I was just thinking, I was just like, it's just any place, any time, something can happen. So if you have the confidence to know that you can defend yourself, that just brings something different to the plate. It's like, it gives you confidence in other aspects of your life too. So, whether it be, taking on, 15 hours at a college, or speaking to a girl, maybe you want to go on a date, or approaching a job interview. You have that profound confidence from being put in really tough situations, and training hard day in through day out, and it gives you a different type of confidence that I think kids or adults can take and put into other aspects of their life, and that's what's helped me a lot with it.
Right. Before we move on to more things, I want to get your perspective, since the Ferguson case is still a hot topic right now, and I covered it extensively with my friend Randy Canales in a previous episode, and I want to get your take. I also want to get Ted's take afterwards, because we haven't really discussed this between ourselves.
I know, I'll just start with this. I know limited information about it, but from what I do know, the first thing I would say, I don't know. It's because it's hard to tell, with media nowadays, man. It's just so tough. It's like, you can take either side, like, per se, like, let's just say Facebook feeds, like I have on, and you get news through your Facebook. I have friends that are very, left wing, and then I have friends that are very right wing, and so I get news stories from each side. It's like, and of course they state this and this and this happened, and then this one states this and this and this happened. I was like, well, one of the two happened, not both of them, happen. It's like, so it's hard to get good information. I mean, exactly what happened as the incident, I'm not sure, but I don't agree with what they're doing. As a result of it, I don't think that's definitely not the answer, and nothing positive at all is going to come out of what's happening as far as an aftermath. But as far as the incident, I can't really tell you what did happen and what didn't happen, because there's so many news stories that go left and right of it. It's like,
I was telling Randy, we weren't there when it happened, so we
don't know.
We'll never know what happened.
I mean, and you see these pictures, of different things of him standing over the body, and there's other pictures of him. What's his name? Michael, is that correct?
Michael Brown.
Michael, you see that Michael with picture of a gun and cash, and it was cash in his mouth or something like that. So it's just like, you don't know what to believe, because you see so many different things and so many different videos. And with media, I mean, going back to like corporate media and corporate radio, it's like, you can't really trust them, because to me it's a puppet. There's someone behind that moving those strings. So
did you hear that analogy that they made in the Culture High, where I think it was a Bill Hicks bit or something like that, where they have the guy and he has two puppets, and one puppet is, I think, Democrat, and one puppet is Republican, but it's the same guy.
Yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah, no, it's true. It's hard to tell. I guess my only opinion would be the fact that, obviously what they're doing, aftermath isn't right, and it's not gonna go anywhere positive from here. Like, that's not. I understand that they're probably upset and they're frustrated, but it's proven, riots don't really change much.
Right, and you throw race into the mix, it doesn't help matters.
Yeah, that's a tough one too. I mean, I was listening to a podcast on the way here, and Adam was talking about racism in the justice system, and I definitely believe in that. I mean, you can't say that's not a true factor. Right. I live in Houston, Texas. There's still racism.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't agree with it. I know. I've met friends and have family that don't exactly, I wouldn't say are racist, but they definitely grew up in the South, and they have those tendencies to look at things a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's like, yeah, I grew up in the same place, but I think at a certain point as an adult, you have to choose, Yeah, if you grew up in the South and you grew up in a, maybe in a racist household, and it can be at all races, like I've met some Hispanic people that are the most racist against black people, and I've met white people that are so racist against Hispanics, and it goes either way, But if you grew up in that household, whatever it may be that they're racist against, it's like at a certain point, once you get out on your own, you make your own choices and I think your own decisions. Because I've seen a lot of people, especially older people, because you have your older stubborn people that are like set in their ways of hating a certain race and they're like, well, that's just the way I grew up. I was like, yeah, I understand that, but at a certain point, like, you make your own decisions. You're an adult, right? It's like, come on now.
This isn't 1950 anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Ted, your thoughts on all this?
Sure. I agree that the riots were, destroyed the city, and what do they have to show for it? I mean, the CNN effect is in force big time. They show, the corporate media shows the violence. I mean, they don't show, that's what they focus on. There was one instance of a pregnant woman getting hit with tear gas, and they're filming it, and it's like, why wouldn't you help this woman? So I definitely agree with that. It's all about, if it bleeds, it leads in the corporate media. I agree that, profiling does happen. Of course, it's hard to break, these stereotypes, like you said, but we're all responsible for, as adults, we can't blame it on the way we were raised. I do think that Ferguson has taken some right steps, like they announced yesterday, in trying to diversify the police department and giving incentives to officers that actually live within the community. I think that that's a good step forward. Hopefully that will lead to a more diverse police force.
And conversation too. People don't want to have this conversation because, like I was saying again, you throw race into the mix. It's kind of tricky, but race had nothing to do with this. I mean,
No.
I don't know for sure, but I mean, an investigation was conducted and the evidence was presented, and they even said it during the press conference that the media said things that weren't true.
Yeah.
When they got the evidence, saying that he got shot in the back, this and that. Well, that never happened. So, and people still protested, in air quotes.
Yeah.
I call it looting.
Yeah, I agree. At the same time, I think as a whole, as the United States, like, there is profiling, it's like that case, right. Maybe not, because like I said, it's hard to tell. We don't know all the facts, but you can't deny as a whole, the nation, there has been profiling it's since the 50s and before that, and it's still, and it's sad to say that it's 2014, it still goes on. It's there's no doubt that you see the majority is in prison, and it's not whites, and like when you just go back to that Adam podcast, he was saying, is a majority of the whites, are like you say, just narcotic arrest. The majority of the whites are when they're doing all the drugs,
white collar crimes, and
it's it's like, it's not like
they're getting probation. And
yeah, it's not like they're not getting caught, because they are. It's just the other minorities that are getting caught is usually the ones getting locked up. It's just like, and I'm not, like I said, I don't know in that situation whether it was a matter of race or not, but I know as a nation, like, yeah, we've had plenty of that going on. So it's probably easy for people to point their fingers and sway towards that decision. But who knows? Like I said, today's with you get, like, you can turn on two different stations and get two different ideas.
Like you're in two different worlds.
Yeah, almost. I think it's funny too. The other one they have talking about media like that. You ever seen the YouTube videos where they have the same exact dialect for like a certain story? You've seen those? Yeah. Those are hilarious. I'm talking about like 20 different stations all around. It's like, who wrote this? And then it's like you didn't change it one bit. It's literally word for word the exact same verbiage, like on 20 different stations all around the U.S. It's like, I don't understand that. How do you like?
I think there was one for shopping. It was like a minute long, and it was the same
dialect, huh?
Over and over again, and I'm like, So stale.
Yeah, it's not only stale, but it's like, how do you mess that up? It's like, at all. I mean, at all, y'all write it all out. It's very, controlled, and you read it off a prompter. It's like all the time and effort y'all and money you put into all these stations, and it's like you're gonna say the exact same thing on 20 different ones. I mean, even though I know it's in different regions, different states, but it's like, come on, I don't understand. It's like, how much more evident is it that it's controlled? That it's controlled by a certain company or a certain media outlet, that then y'all all saying the exact same thing. Like, it's obvious it's controlled if everybody's saying the exact same verbiage for the exact same story.
Mm-hmm. Do you see that control continue to, I guess, increase in the future? I want to say like the government having more control, but I guess more things being in control, like the news media, like.
I think, yeah, I think it could definitely increase, but I think at the same time people are learning more and being exposed more, via podcast, and just the internet in general. The internet, of course, the podcasts come through internet, but internet in general, there's more transparency, and I'd say in the last 2 to 5 years, I've learned so much through podcasts and through the internet, that I didn't know before, just through, like I said, the transparency of people and things nowadays. Is like, when people mess up nowadays, it can be on video, it can be on audio, there's so many things that have leaked out with, I'd say, the past 5 to 10 years that before you would never get, people saying things, in a after an interview, and they have it on tape, or getting things videoed, people doing crimes, or just doing some shady things. It's like, it's all more transparent. I think it's all going to come to light more and more, and it's going to get to a point where it's going to be very hard to hide anything, which it can be good and bad. We don't, you still want a sense of privacy, but at the same time, it's like, if people are doing things they're not supposed to be doing, I think it's going to come to light. I don't know. I think the media is going to continue to do that, and that's what they've always done. Like you were saying, what'd you say, the
CNN effect? The
CNN effect, yeah. Whatever's going on as far as violence and things like that. That's why I quit watching the 10 o'clock news. It's like, I know people are getting murdered and raped, and houses are burning down, but that's all you talk about. That's all you want to show. It's like,
of course,
I think it's going to continue. It may increase, but I think at the same time, I think people are going to go to different outlets. Like we were saying, there's so many different news outlets online. It's like the newspaper, it shows a certain aspect, but if you go online, you can get 20 different, 100, 1,000 different ways of looking at things. So it's cool, because I think it gives just the people a new light, a new way to approach the news and what's going on in the world.
And that's what we try to do is here at Dateline, we try to present the information with the facts, with the evidence, and try to steer away from, we do have our opinion pieces every now and then, but again, those two are supported by facts and evidence and opposing arguments as well. So,
and once you get a critical mass of people switching to these new forms of media, maybe the corporate media will rise up and take notice that they're wrong. Just a thought.
Yeah, they either have to rise up or try to shut it down, one of the two.
It's amazing with the whole podcasting game. I was really excited. I had no interest in jiu-jitsu whatsoever in the past, maybe ever.
Yeah.
And up until I started listening to people like Joe Rogan, Joey Diaz, saying that they practice jiu-jitsu, and I started listening to you guys, and then just out of nowhere saying, "Oh, we're gonna do a jiu-jitsu podcast." I'm like, "Wow, that's awesome. It's amazing." And you guys also have, well, not you guys, but I forget who it is, Jonathan. They have the sports podcast.
Oh yeah, they started that, the H-Town Breakdown.
Garza's doing that one too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Garza's doing that one too.
I told Randy, Garza is a podcast central. So.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of like we're almost building our own little network in a sense. It's been a lot of fun though. I've got to meet so many cool people from different walks of life through Garza's podcast.
Right.
Like I said, being on most of the episodes, and if not being on an episode with people, either getting to meet them afterwards or getting to meet them at different social events. It's like we've done so many cool things. I've got to travel to California. I told this story on the podcast Saturday. It's just I met a guy through Garza's podcast and Twitter. Actually, not met him, got acquainted with him. Right. Flew to California my first time with my good buddy. We met him in person at the airport, picked us up, let us borrow his truck for like the weekend, the 4 days we were there. Mm-hmm. It's just never met this guy before. Talking through the podcast with Garza a few times. Shout out to his name is SJ Pellegrino. You can follow him at SJ Pellegrino on Twitter. And met him at the airport, gave us a hug. It was so cool to meet him, and he let us borrow his truck for 4 days. Never ever met this guy before. Only did one or two podcasts with him and just interacted with him on Twitter. So it's just the network of people online. It's cool because you can pick and choose, who you want to interact with, who you get along with. It's like sometimes, whether it be through work or through school, it's like you may do a school project where you're with like three people that you just don't have any interest in, or you're just not the same type of people, Right. Or if at work, there's people that have to work with people that you just don't like, you know what I mean? Or you just don't have anything in common with them at all. So it's cool with the internet. You can kind of filter through who you want to, associate yourself with. And then you can not just like saying these people have to be across the world. They can be in your hometown.
Right.
You can go on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you want and find people in your hometown that have the same interests and same ideas as you, and then hang out with these people, and create a little social network of your own, and that's what makes it so fun.
Mm-hmm. And that's how I actually met you guys, through Twitter, through social media. And to be brutally honest, I've only kept in touch with maybe like 2-3 people from high school, middle school, and elementary, and because everybody else they went off and did their own thing, and fine with that, but they're not really, I guess they're stuck in a rut.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Like, I come from a small town, Needville High School, and I graduated with like 160 people. So I mean, not I don't keep up with any 160 people, but yeah, I can see what you mean. It's just they're
and stuck in a rut. And for example, I'd say, just not going out there and pursuing other things like you guys are, jiu-jitsu or comedy or podcasting.
Well, I think some people are just satisfied with
I guess so,
a 9-to-5 life. Like some people are just satisfied with, okay, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life, right. And maybe maybe they're married, maybe they have kids, maybe they're not, maybe that's in the future.
That's who they are.
Yeah, that's who they are, and that's what I'm saying. It's like just because you're so kind of forced or just set in an environment around these people, it doesn't mean you have to stay around those people. It's right. I think you surround yourself with like-minded individuals. Like that's what I try to do. It's like, I'm gonna surround myself with people that are in with what I like to do. I mean, of course, I want to meet people new people,
Sure.
But if you surround yourself with like-minded individuals, I think you're gonna elevate and take yourself to a new level, and and be able to grow more as a person. It's like if you're just surrounding yourself with people that aren't creative, and you're a creative person. And then it's going to be hard for you to create. It's like you kind of need to put yourself in an environment that's going to, allow you to flourish as a person. And right. if you're stuck in an environment with, like you said, people in a rut, or people that are just satisfied. It's for me. It's like I'm never satisfied. It's like whether it be jiu-jitsu on my podcast or just anything I'm doing, it's like, I could have done that better. You go back and it's there's a point where you shouldn't be so hyper self-critical, but at the same time, it's just like, I could do this better, or I could have said this better, or so it's like I think that's something that everybody should kind of have. Like, it's like you should want to strive for more, and I don't know, that's just me, like strive for better. To be satisfied to me is like, I talked about this on Saturday. It's like a real basic example, but I look at my life and kind of like where I'm at, like water. Like if you saw a puddle of water, right, and it's stagnant water grows bacteria. It's not drinkable. It's not moving, and eventually it'll dry up. Moving water is fresh. You can drink from it. It's flowing. It's like I try to keep myself moving and doing new things and pushing myself further and getting outside. Another one is get outside of your comfort zone, trying things you haven't done before, meeting people you haven't met before. So I think those things are important, and in order to do that, I think you have to surround yourself with the right type of people. And I think a lot of people out there aren't surrounded with those people. And for me, the podcast, the Joe Rogan podcast, and Twitter, and that helped me surround myself with more like-minded people that wanted to do new things or wanted to try creative things or push themselves to a new level. So I really attribute it, like I said, to Twitter too. Twitter has been a great way of interacting with new people.
Mm-hmm. You're a big fan of comedy too, right?
Yeah, man, I'm a big fan of comedy. I've always, even before like the podcast and listening to all these comedians on their podcast, I would be at home I want to say when I was younger, before I had a car, before I could go out, like Friday nights, man, they used to have like comedy all night on Comedy Central, and I'm like, sweet, man, like 30 minutes for like every 30 minutes is a new comedian. I would listen to all comedy, and I really enjoy it. I've been to a few shows, around here in Houston, but it's a really cool like medium to see. It's different. It's different than a lot of other things like music and other venues you can go to. It's comedy is different, man. You kind of get to know that person and kind of get to see their like point of view on life and
very intimate.
Yeah, it's exactly, that's a good word for it. It's intimate, and it's a blast, man. Like I tell people all the time, it's like older, people that are a little older, older than 21. It's like, what are you gonna do on the weekend? You're gonna go out to a bar and have some drinks, it'll be fun. But I was like, but you can go to a comedy show and laugh your ass off and have some drinks and eat, and I was like, it's a great time. Like, I mean, of course, you want to go to a guy who's funny or a woman who's funny. You want to have someone who's entertaining, but man, that's some of the best times is going to a comedy show, man. Have with some friends, have a couple drinks and eat and hang out. It's like, man, I don't know why more people don't go to comedy shows. And there's so many good comedians that come through Houston.
Absolutely. We
only have a few places here, but the Improv, where's that at? On the Katy Freeway, yeah. And that's a good little spot, man. It's nice. They redid it, I think like less than a year ago or so. But they have guys rolling through every weekend. Like I don't go as much as I should. I get emails from them all the time, and they have a lot of cool people coming through there. And then your bigger guys, your bigger headliners, they come through Houston a lot. Or if not Houston, go to Austin. Right. Austin has a lot of good. I've seen Rogan there. Tom Segura with Your Mom's House, I've seen him there. So they have a lot of good comedians coming through Houston, Austin, maybe even Dallas. But yeah, man, comedy is it's really neat. It's fun to listen to, but I think the live experience is obviously the best way to do it. The best way to see it. Because even if I'm sure you ever listen to comedy just on headphones. Yeah. It's okay, or in your car. It's funny. Yeah, you could definitely get some laughs, but I think seeing it like on TV or like seeing it in person is like, it's the best way to go. It's like, I love podcasts and it's still really funny, but man, to see that person live, it makes that experience even better.
Because you're seeing a character on stage.
Yeah, definitely. You
see Joe Rogan or Joey Diaz, you're seeing Joe Rogan. Or
yeah,
Joey
yeah,
Diaz.
Yeah. Speaking of Joey, when we went that Cali trip, our Metamoris trip, we got It's I always believe like in fate and kind of like the way things work out. It's like sometimes you're like, man, why did this happen, or why did we make this decision? Anyways, long story short, we end up parking so far away from the comedy store, the famous comedy store in L.A. We parked like 30 minutes away, man.
Wow.
Blame this on at FodioZ. Joey Fodio is one of our hosts on the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. He's like, let's park here.
Did you want to walk or something?
No, we did not want to walk that far. He's like, let's park here. I'm like, cool, man. So we parked like 30 minutes away. And when we had been training, and we had for a few days already, we had done like a 4-hour session at 10th Planet. We had done a few classes the night before. So we're walking uphill like all like bitching, like, man, what the hell? Why did we park this far? Anyways, the moment we walk into the comedy store, boom, there's Joey Diaz. And I'm like, he's not a big like name, like he's not like super famous, but like to me, he's a big deal. I listen to him every week. Definitely. I love Joey Diaz, Not only the fact he trains jiu-jitsu, but he's fucking hilarious. It's Joey Diaz, man. He's the dog. Yeah, exactly. Dude, he makes me laugh almost harder than anybody, like any comedian I can name. But into walking and we saw him right away. I was like, man, that was perfect. Even though we freaking parked 30 minutes away, walked forever, it was perfect because we walked in, got to talk to him. We started talking about Houston. He knows all about Houston. He's, he talks about on the podcast. We talked about jiu-jitsu. He's like, we came down here to train for a week. We went to Metamoris. We went and trained at 10th Planet last night. And he's like, oh, y'all savages, dog. And it was just so cool. And we talked to him for all that was like not even 5 minutes. And then he went on stage. So we got to see Joey Diaz. We got to talk to Joey Diaz, real quick for about 5 minutes. And then went in, sat down, and got to watch him, perform, which was amazing because Joey Diaz is hilarious.
I listen to him every week, too. I mean, he's had a amazing number of guests. Just recently I listened to Rudy Zarzo, the bass player he used to play with Whitesnake and Quiet Riot.
Yeah, I listened to that episode. He played with a lot of bands.
A lot of bands too. And Dean Del Rey, he's also a musician, comedian too. He had him on too. And it's just a lot of good stuff out there. You just gotta look for it.
Yeah.
There's good stuff out there.
No, I definitely agree. And then I tell people all the time about podcasts. It's like I listen to most comedy podcasts, and that's basically the genre I stick around, and I'll venture out to other local podcasts and things like that I hear of. But it's like it doesn't matter what you're into. I guarantee you, there's a podcast there for you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like I can understand some people are like just don't listen to people talk. I guess if it's just that's not what you're into, then okay, I understand. Maybe it's just not for you. But if you have an interest and you think you want to try it and listen to podcasting on the regular, just search it, because I guarantee you there's something out there for you. I mean, there's podcasts just for everybody. It's just doesn't matter what you're into or what your age. You'll find something that interests you and someone that you enjoy listening to. Like we say, we listen to certain people on a weekly basis because you just found something you really enjoy. And I think there's a podcast out there for everybody. It just depends what you're into and who you like listening to.
Right. Every day I listen to Opie and Anthony every day.
Yeah.
Every day. So, and that's how I got into podcasting because of them. They started promoting other people's podcasts, comedians and other not just comedians, but other personalities, like we were saying. And if there's something you like, there's a podcast for that, for sure. Music, comedy, politics. I'm not gonna sit down and listen to politics all day. That's just not my thing. But if that's your thing, then go right ahead. Politics, right wing, left wing, or want to keep talking about the Ferguson thing, go right ahead. I'm just not interested.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It gets boring. I mean, it gets boring after a while. When you start talking about politics and stuff like that, because some people just don't want to see your point of view. You might have an opposing view on something. I might not agree with you, but I see where you're coming from. And it's just, it gets boring after a while, and I just tune out.
Yeah, I think like I said, I keep going back to it, but the episode you did with Adam, when he brought up the ego, it's when people have that ego and they're set in their ways and they're set in their thinking, it's like they don't listen to an outside perspective, and sometimes it's hard to, if you're so set in something, it's like you don't want to hear it, it's just but listen first, it's like I think one of the biggest things people do is when something like that happens, they're just sitting in their head like, oh, I can't wait till you finish this because I got this I have this rebuttal that's gonna get them. It's like, no, take a second or a minute or so and listen to what they're saying and try to take it in and see. I always try to when I see somebody or hear somebody talking, it's like, even if I don't agree, I try to shut that ego down. I'm like, no, don't say that. Just put yourself in their shoes. Try to see where they're coming from or they're listening. It's like your ego is probably the first thing that's going to come up. It's like it's going to tell you, even when you're walking down the street, you look at somebody, your first thing is you want to judge them. As humans, we just we judge right away. It's like you gotta be conscious of that and then kind of set it aside and look at it from a different perspective. And it's like if someone's speaking about something that I don't exactly agree with, I'm like, okay, let me try to put myself in their shoes and see where they're coming from, and see what they're trying to say. Because if not, you let that ego get in the way, you're not going to hear anything. You're not going to get any ideas that they're talking to you about. You're just gonna you be set in your ways and set to your idea. Exactly. You can definitely. I forgot. I saw a quote the other day. I forget who it was, but it's just like he was saying, you can learn something from everybody you meet. It doesn't. doesn't matter if they may be an ignorant person or not as intelligent as you or as anything, but it doesn't mean you can't learn from. Like I always say, like you might learn something that that you don't want to do, or that you shouldn't do. It's like, I saw this idiot and then I learned I didn't want to do that, or I shouldn't make that mistake or say these things, So it's like you can learn from people that necessarily aren't on the same level as you intellectually, age wise too. You can learn from younger people as well as older people. So I think it's just a matter of being open to more things, and that's where the ego comes in. If your ego kind of sets you back and kind of controls you from the get-go, it's going to hold you back from learning and being open to those things.
Last thing before we wrap up here, we're running up until about an hour. I mean, we can keep talking forever.
It's awesome podcast, man. Like when you have a good time talking, and it's like it goes so quick. It's fun.
Do you have any specific music that you listen to when you're training? When you're training, because I'm assuming when you're rolling with somebody, you don't have.
Yeah, you would. Some places play music depending on the school you go at. Actually, the shirt I'm wearing today, my buddy Victor Poses Nogi is out in Cyprus. He jams out hard when we roll. Man, I'm a big music buff. I love music. I love podcasts, but I'll admit music comes first. Sometimes I do love listening to podcasts, but a lot of times I get in the car, and especially if I have something on my mind or just want to think about some things, that I just want to listen to music. Working out, let's see, like I worked out this morning, and I put it on, like I said, I'm a big fan of Spotify. I don't want to listen to commercials. I'll pay my $10 a month because I don't want to listen to your ads. I don't care what car you're selling or the furniture you're selling this week. I just want to listen to music. So so Spotify. This morning I was listening to some Parkway Drive. I don't know if you're familiar with Parkway Drive. It's a metal band. It's a little more contemporary. Like you're wearing an Iron Maiden shirt. And I like old metal too. I'm a little more familiar with like the newer metal. Okay. Different bands I listen to. As far as metal, All Shall Perish, Parkway. You might Killswitch Engage. You probably know them. They're a little more mainstream, but usually metal or rap. And I like different types of rap. It would be new school, like let's say like I've been listening to Kendrick Lamar, Wiz Khalifa, different things like that. And I like the old school. I love Pac. Pac's one of my favorite rappers. I like Biggie. I like the hardcore stuff, especially if I'm working out. I want some hardcore gangster rap. That's just NWA, man. Yeah, for sure. NWA, Ice Cube, man. Like the old school stuff. I like the old school stuff too. Rakim. I'll listen to all that, And then sometimes, like if I go for like a real mellow jog, or like jogging outside, I love it. Like I don't know what there is about it, but if you enjoy exercising and you like being outdoors, go for a run outside. Like Houston has a lot of great parks you can go to, or just go in your neighborhood. But sometimes if I want to keep it mellow, I'll listen to reggae. I love reggae. I listen to something real mellow. Jack Johnson. I love Jack Johnson. He's really kind of got like a. He's like mellow, but he's kind of got like some romance and like love songs in there too. So it just depends on the mood I'm in and what type of workout I'm doing. But I like a lot of different genres, but only one I don't dabble in really is country. Kind of you neither. So I kind of grew up in a small town, and some of my family were really into country. So it was kind of like when you're a little kid, you don't really control the radio station. It's like you just kind of forced to listen to whatever you ride in the car, and when you grew up in a country town, most people listen to country, so it's like that's the only genre I can't get down to. And it was kind of like, I guess because it was like more forced upon me, not really forced upon me, but it was just like all that was around me. So it's like when I got the choice to have my own iPod or listen to my own music, it wasn't country. Like country's just, I don't know, it doesn't resonate with me. I understand. I see it as a form of music and art, and I can get that, but I just don't get down with it.
Luckily for me, I mean, driving around with my dad when I was much younger, he always had Judas Priest cranking in the car, or some Black Sabbath, really old stuff, and that's the stuff that I stuck to the most. I really don't listen to a lot of new stuff nowadays. Maybe new stuff that the older bands put out. But there's nothing like the classics.
No, I agree too, man. My dad as well. grew up, put me up on a lot of classic rock. Like, I was talking to Garza about that. What was it? Saturday. I was talking about some classic rock band. I was like, man, you don't listen to a lot of classic rock, do you? He's like, I'm not really familiar with it. I'm like, man, that you should try, and like, I'll give you some bands you should check out, because man, there's so much good stuff when it comes to classic rock and different genres. You can go heavier like Black Sabbath. I mean, you have like Foreigner, you got Zeppelin, there's so many good bands out there that were from the like classic rock or from the 50s, 60s, 70s. It's just good stuff. It's just it depends what you're into, and there's so many different sounds, and man, it's like when people look at that and be like, oh, that's old, it's like, no, it's classic, man. That's good stuff. Timeless. It's like, yeah, no, it's timeless. Like you can put on some Black Sabbath today and it still freaking jams. It's like, what's that song? They have, Iron Man was the theme song for the Iron Man movies, and that's pretty fairly recent, but it still jams hard. When it comes on, it still gets you going. So yeah, I'm a real big fan of classic rock.
Do you go to a lot of concerts still?
Man, I haven't been lately. What we were talking about earlier, I was telling Juan that my ears are done. I think with like loud music. I just at a bar I was over the weekend, and they have a DJ, so it's a dance atmosphere, and it's just really loud. I mean, the next day I woke up, my right ear was still ringing. So it's like, I used to do a lot of metal concerts. Used to go, like heavy metal, pretty heavy stuff. And you were saying you wear earplugs, which is smart, and I should have done that the first, dozen or so I went to, because after a while, man, it was just like, it's so loud. I remember going to concerts and like getting home like 2-3 hours afterwards, my ears still ringing.
Right.
But I really enjoy them. Like going a lot, and like same thing with comedians. Like the live music is usually always better. You have some bands that just suck live. Like I'll be straight up. There's some great bands. There's some Academy Award winning, whatever you want to say, like high profile bands, but they suck live. Like that's just how some bands are. Some bands are really great in the studio, but some bands are terrible live. But for the most part, especially metal, because it's cranked up loud.
Right.
It's jamming. There's energy. Like it's always fun to go and see it live. Like you're gonna have a great time. Just don't get smashed in the mosh pit.
I've been on a little side note. Before we wrap up, I started going because I'm much younger. I started going to concerts back in 2010 when I started here at UHD, and about the second concert, because I think it was consecutive, I went to go see Kiss for the first time, 2010. I think it was September 17th, something like that, and I didn't have earplugs. Following weekend, I went to go see Rush. Same deal.
Awesome, man. That was amazing.
Same deal. No earplugs, and I'm like, I gotta start wearing earplugs, and I started going more and more to more concerts. Megadeth, Slayer, Kiss. I've seen Kiss maybe like 4 times already.
Wow, you're a big Kiss fan, huh?
I'm a big Kiss freak. I always tell people I'm a big
Kiss
freak.
Speaking of Kiss, I love Detroit Rock City. When I tell people and they're like, I haven't seen Detroit Rock City, I'm like, where have you been? Like, dude, it's even if you don't like Kiss, it's a badass movie.
Oh, the movie, yeah.
It's just a badass movie. Sorry, yeah, I'm talking about the movie. No. The movie, yeah, the song's great too, but the movie is so badass. Like, even if you don't like Kiss, go watch Detroit Rock City. It's a cool movie.
It's just the whole idea of getting to the show.
Yeah. It's a cool movie. It's just, I don't know. To me, it's a classic. But yeah, I agree with you, man. Like, and now you think about it, like you see like guys that do security. Of course, the guys on stage, they're wearing earplugs, and it's like
the in-ear monitors.
Yeah, and it's like it kind of looks like. I'm not gonna lie, you kind of look like a nerd. It's like, oh, you're going to a metal concert, you're gonna wear earplugs, right? But like now, I think I would do it because, man, it's so brutal on your ears. Like even wearing like the earbuds, like I'm 26 now. I've been in the gym since 18, jamming out, listening to metal, rap, whatever it may be. And of course it's loud because you want to drown out the terrible music the gym's playing.
Beyonce and
exactly.
Taylor Swift.
Yes, exactly. I can't listen to Taylor Swift while I'm jamming Slipknot, trying to, knock out some squats, so you got to crank it up louder. So yeah, that adds up. But yeah, I've been to a lot of good concerts. A few rap concerts around Houston, but mostly metal. Like I said, we're lucky here in Houston. We get a lot of people that come through.
Oh yeah.
Big bands, small bands. All different genres. So yeah, I've been to a lot of metal concerts though, and they're fun. But I as I got older, I'm like, man, I feel like the old guy in the crowd now, you know, like, you know, I'm not that old, but it was just like younger and younger kids coming, and I got out of the moshing, you know. It's like, I can't be doing that.
You don't do the front row, front of the stage anymore?
Not so much either, man. One of the big issues with that is not so much moshing, but crowd surfing. And I don't know about, I'm sure you've been to enough concerts now where you've had someone dropped on your head. One of the worst experiences I ever had, I think I was at Reliant Arena, Reliant Center, whatever that is, and it wasn't even like a crazy metal show. I want to say it was like, man, like 3 Days Grace, Seether, and one other band. But so you're facing the stage, you know, like if you get towards the front, you know, you obviously want to look at the band and watch them perform, but you have to be conscious of what's behind you, and people crowd surfing, and if you're not, you're gonna get your head crushed, you know, or it's bad. I remember with this one instance though, for a couple minutes I wasn't paying attention behind me, and someone landed like right where your neck meets your back. God. And it's like and it basically kind of like, I wouldn't say knocked me out because I was still standing, but I kind of blacked out for like a couple seconds. Like you ever got hit in the head really hard and you hear like really loud ringing sound? So that happened. Like I got hit and I don't remember what was going on for like 2 or 3 seconds. Like everything went black and I just heard this loud buzzing sound. But since it's a, you know, metal or so-called metal concert, it was so packed that I kind of like, I didn't fall over, you know what I mean? Like I was just squunched in with all these people, so I was still standing. But yeah, so that kind of stuff, kind of like, I'm just kind of like, man, I'm getting too old for this. Like I don't want to, it sucks. Like I've seen people dropped and like their head gashed open. And this is another part a lot of people don't talk about concerts, especially metal concerts, is, man, there's a lot of guys that fall into all these girls that come over, and that's terrible, man. Yeah, I saw an article, the lead singer of Stained, Aaron Lewis, he got on the mic and like just had like a little rant about it because he saw it kept going on. It's like, man, some of these girls are real young. Like I said, I'm getting older now. And these people, you know, are younger, come to concerts. I mean, it's like, I don't care if they're young or old, but it's like, that's a 14-year-old girl you just groped that came over your head, man. Like, come on, what the hell are you doing? You know, it's like, yeah, this is a metal concert. It's crazy and everything, but that doesn't give you a right to grope women that are coming over crowd surfing. You know, it's like, so, like that stuff is just, that's not cool with me. It's so, but I mean, if I would still be open to go to concerts, but I think I'd be standing in the back with my earplugs in. Right. You know,
I did the when I went to go see Slayer last year. I did the side stage. I think it was from the left side, and I got a good view. I mean, I knew what was going on center stage.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, there's no way I'm getting in there. I'm not a really big guy. I'm a small dude.
Yeah.
I don't want to get hurt. And same thing for Megadeth. The following month, same spot, and I got a good view. When I go to a concert, I wanna enjoy it.
Yeah.
I wanna listen to the music. I wanna just enjoy everything that's happening. I don't want to worry about the guy behind me or spilling beer all over me.
Oh, it's the worst.
Pushing me and stuff like that. But it's all good, and I would recommend that to all the listeners out there. Just be careful.
Yeah, definitely. If you're gonna get in there in the front, no, there's gonna be pushing, shoving, moshing, crowd surfers. Watch behind you. If you see a security guard pointing behind you, you better look behind you because there's probably someone coming over your head pretty quickly. Yeah,
you're not gonna see that at a Taylor Swift concert or whatever concert people are going to nowadays, but you will see that at a metal concert, whether it's Megadeth or Slayer, your more extreme type of music. But just be careful out there.
I think you can still enjoy it though. I guess for me it's just I haven't had the inkling to want to go lately, but I think you can still enjoy it. Like it just kind of stand back and watch. And sometimes I've done that. Like after I've been to a metal concert where it's like an all day event. You know, it's like 10 bands. Yeah. So it's like the third or fourth band you've been jamming out. It's like sometimes I would just go up like a House of Blues. You can go up on the balcony part and just like sit down and kind of just like watch. You know, it's like sometimes I got to that point where it's like, oh, I just want to go and watch and just kind of see. And it's like it's cool to see it from a different angle. You don't have to be up front and center every time. You know. And like I said, we were talking about, especially with your hearing, that's not the best for your hearing.
No, and I did earplugs for both shows, and I was pretty well off. Still, it takes a toll on you. Not to sound all jaded or anything, but
no, I know it definitely does. Like, I've been, I don't know, I've never counted how many I've been to, but I would say I've been close to over 20 or more. You know,
right?
metal shows, and yeah, it definitely it's proven. It's science. It's like your ears are only supposed to handle a certain amount of volume, and most people listening with headphones are actually over that volume as well. And people, you don't really realize that, but yeah, that because it's direct, in your ear, in earbuds. We were talking about the Beats by Dre. It's those, probably cranked up aren't the best thing for your ears. Same thing in a metal concert. It's like that's not the best thing for your ears, and after doing it for so long, I kind of realized that. But I'd still like to go, just more conservative, earplugs hanging out in the back, So, but yeah, there's still a great time.
You're like, yeah, I remember when I saw them back in.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy. I feel too old, But no, I enjoy doing that too. Seeing the same band, like you've seen Kiss 4 times. I've seen certain metal bands, smaller band, probably a lot of people know, but Born of Osiris, I've seen him 3 times. Right. And the cool thing about metal too, man, is especially not so much the bigger names, obviously like Kiss and Megadeth, Iron Maiden, but like some of the smaller ones, you can get to meet these guys.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like sometimes at the bigger concerts, you might be able to meet them, but like I know for sure, like the smaller metal concerts, like you get to meet these dudes. You can have a beer with them. You can, get their autograph, whatever it may be. It's like most of those guys in the metal industry are pretty humble, pretty down to earth. They're not, like mega stars. You know what I mean?
I actually met the band Fozzy, Chris Jarko's band. And I got to meet them I think it was last year too, and they're just a bunch of cool guys. And I actually got to interview the guitar player from Fozzy for the podcast.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
So it's pending right now. If you're listening to this, it might have gone up already, it might have not, but we have it. So it was a very interesting conversation. We talked music, talked sports, and stuff like that. Just an awesome dude.
Yeah, like I said, that's what's neat about it, man. Is it's not type of, I mean, you're pop drawn. You're not gonna meet these Taylor Swift and all these top artists, but for a different genre, metal, you're gonna get to meet a lot of those people, and most of them are super cool, down to earth guys, or gals. There's some girls in there too, but it's same thing with jiu-jitsu. It's like that's why I love jiu-jitsu so much, because all the guys are so humble. It's like I've met some of the top guys in the sport. I got to have Jeff Glover on, which is one of the best jiu-jitsu guys out there right now, and that's what's cool about getting to these things that I guess aren't so mainstream. Like, I guess I'm not saying like anti-mainstream, but it's like
right.
There's a lot of things you can get into that it's like,
say it, you're anti-mainstream.
But it's just things these things you can experience, and that you're not gonna be able to experience with some other of those mainstream things. It's
right.
That's the way I look at it.
Let's plug the websites real quick before we wrap this up. I've been saying that for 3 times already that we're wrapping up, but
I kept rambling on. Websites. We don't have a website yet, man. That's one of the things I need to get on, and our co-host. But as far as
you do have Twitter.
We do have Twitter, yeah.
Promote yours first. It's Robert _Ezzell. And you spell that Ezzell.
That's correct.
And you can also find him on Facebook. You can find you on Facebook too.
Yeah, find me on Facebook, Robert Ezzell. And then the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, we're everywhere. So at Facebook, we're the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. On Twitter, we're at the Jiu-Jitsu Pod. And also Instagram, the Jiu-Jitsu Pod. So you can find us on any of those outlets. You can also follow my producer at Garza Robert on Twitter. You can find him on Facebook. Also check out his website, RobGTV. He has all his podcasts, all his things going on there. So follow us on all those outlets. Like I said, we're gonna be on Facebook. You can find our episodes through Facebook, through Twitter. We always post everything, a bunch of events as well. As far as jiu-jitsu and martial arts, we do a lot of those postings on there. I'm not sure when this is going out, but Friday I'll be at Arena Theater at the Invicta fights if you want to come out there. So just follow us, and it's been great, man. We had a pretty good following so far from Facebook. Twitter's growing as well, so it's neat to see all the people that are interested, and that, like I said, the people that contact you and that enjoy the content. So I'm enjoying it, man. I'm just looking forward to doing more podcasts and meeting more people and reaching more people, and spreading the word about jiu-jitsu.
You can find the podcast as well on iTunes and Stitcher for those of you who want to listen. I encourage you to listen because it's really, really good conversation on jiu-jitsu. And sometimes you'll talk about other things too.
Yeah, we get into other things. I
So
mean,
it's
not all jiu-jitsu.
exclusive.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, that can get kind of,
yeah,
boring in a while, but
Yeah, like I said, if you're not into jiu-jitsu, it's a complete hour and a half just of solely jiu-jitsu talk, and you can kind of tune out because you don't know what's going on. But yeah, we talk about other things too, different things, just basic things. But we also talk about MMA, and different martial arts. We're not opposed to different martial arts. We're open, and we train different martial arts. Each guy is a little different, but yeah, definitely check us out. Like you said, iTunes, Stitcher, and if you can't find us through there, you can hit us on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram. Like I said, we're pretty much everywhere.
And UFCgym.com/MoCity.
Yeah, I teach out in Missouri City at the UFC Gym, and I also teach at Bam Bam's, and that's in Bel Air, so in Houston area. If you're out from Houston, it's a little closer. So I teach at both schools. I teach all during the week. Like I said, everything from kids classes to adults, striking, jiu-jitsu, little bit of wrestling for the kids. But yeah, come try a class out. I love having new students and love introducing people to martial arts.
I look forward to that in the future.
Yeah, definitely, man. You gotta come try a class.
I have to. I've been wanting to for a long time. It's just like Robert Garza said, you need to have a set date,
Yeah.
Come down this day and come through and like, I can't go.
It kind of helps you. It kind of makes you be accountable, though, man. That's why people will, be like, if you pay for something, especially like something, that's why people do like pre-registrations on things. It's not only good for a business aspect, but it's also good for the personal. Because if say a concert, if you pay for a concert ticket, you're gonna go,
right.
But if you just tell a friend yeah, let's go to that concert. When it comes to the week of, yeah, man, I'm not gonna go. But if you bought that ticket or paid pre-registering for a class or a class at college, right. You're gonna show up to that class in college because you paid for it. You know what I mean? So yeah, hold yourself accountable.
Absolutely. It's been a great interview, hour plus. We can definitely go on for another hour, 2, 3, maybe 4 hours.
I always call myself an introvert, but once I started doing podcasts, I'm like, yeah, I can talk if I get into it. If I get comfortable and if I want to talk, I was like, yeah, I can definitely talk for a little while.
And for all the listeners out there, you can always visit our website at datelinedowntown.com. You'll find the links to the Facebook page, Dateline Downtown, as always. Follow us on Twitter at the Dateline. And our podcast page, as usual, datelinedowntown.com/podcast. And we have, we have a lot more episodes coming your way, so be on the lookout for those. And we might even make the transition to YouTube for
really?
The remainder of the semester. We're still not sure. We're still working on that, but we might transition to YouTube. I figure it's much easier for us. But thanks again for coming down, making the trip.
Yeah, man, definitely. I enjoyed it. This is my first kind of podcast outside of Garza's and the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, so I was really interested to see how another podcast works and just to get out there and try something different, like I said.
And for those of you wondering, our good friend Ted Shull left the class already, so if you didn't catch him in the last half of the show, then he's in class right now. So but
duty calls.
You got to do what you got to do. Thanks again for coming on the show, Robert. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Having you on in the future. And you guys have all the websites and